And here we are. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Hello all, and welcome to First Unitarian Church of Toledo. I'm moving around a little bit because we are still setting up and we're short one person today. Mickey Miller could not be with us, and we want to send our best wishes to Mickey and hope that she is back in our circles very soon. In the meantime, I'm trying to set up a couple of lights here so we don't have such darkness, and we're working on other things as well. But I want to give you a welcome. As we open our Earth Day service, I begin by giving thanks for the earth we are on at First Unitarian Church of Toledo, and to the people who were here before us. I am thankful to the Miami, Peoria, and the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, which includes the Mohawk, to the Wyandot and the Council of Three Fires, Ojibwe, Potawatomi, and Ottawa, as well as the Delaware, Mingo, and Shawnee people, for our presence on what was known to some as the Great Black Swamp. We know that the swamp, which includes where Toledo is now, became United States territory and was settled by white people in large part because of the Battle of Fallen Timbers here in 1794, which enabled U.S. occupation of the Northwest Territory. A year after that battle, Native Americans were sent to live here as part of a treaty with the young United States when the U.S. wanted to take better land where the Native Americans had lived. In 1794, there were not 5,000 people in what would become Ohio, but 25 years later, there were about 500,000. And the U.S. had taken over the Great Black Swamp and exiled the Native Americans, sending them west. So unwanted land that was said to be too wet to support good community or farming, the Great Black Swamp, was developed and became our home. We are grateful that now Greater Toledo is a compassionate region where people of multiple backgrounds and origins live largely in harmony today. Welcome. Mickey Miller, our music director, who has been doing double duty as service associate during these Sunday streaming services from our sanctuary studio, is feeling under the weather today, as I said. People still get sick without going viral, and we're hoping Mickey gets well soon. I can blame any mistakes I make today, and there will likely be several, and there have already been some, on only my own efforts to make adjustments, and with Bonnie Rowe, our accompanist and fellow Sunday regular, and me here with behind the scenes help from Richard Miller. A couple of announcements. The Mother's Day flower sale Today is the last day to order your Mother's Day flower baskets. And if you check your Saturday UUFYI email that we send to people in the congregation, it includes the order of service, and I believe the order form is on there, or you could call the church office and leave a message. If you haven't seen these baskets or ordered one previously, you are truly missing out. These are huge, beautiful baskets that, with proper watering, last until the end of the fall. Please mail your orders to the church. If you haven't sent your order in yet, but plan to buy this Sunday, today being the last day, please let the church know with a quick phone call or email to the office. That's office@uutoledo.org, to let us know your order is coming so you don't miss out. We will schedule pickup appointment times on Thursday, May 7th. Some sad news: our former interim minister, Rod Thompson, has let us know that on Wednesday morning, his wife, Mary, died of complications from COVID-19. She was diagnosed 2 weeks ago, entered comfort care on Monday, and Rod was able to be with her Monday afternoon. Even though it has been expected, Rod wrote to me, it has been and will still be hard to cope with. He wanted our wonderful congregation, as he put it, to know. And one more important announcement: our annual meeting for the congregation is on the schedule now for May 17th. And we're going to do it via Zoom with voting by mail. There will be 2 budget sharing meetings on Zoom before then, and I don't have the schedule in front of me, but look in our regular Toledo Unitarians communications paths to get information about those meetings. We're still working out details for the annual meeting, but please, if you're supposed to submit information for the annual report, please get it to us ASAP. And now, opening words. As surely as we belong to the universe, we belong together. We join here in this place and by live stream to transcend the isolated self, to reconnect, to know ourselves to be at home here on earth, under the stars, linked figuratively these days with each other. And our chalice lighting are words by Lynn Harrison. The previous was by Margaret Kipe. This Lynn Harrison piece is called Committed to Respond. Committed to respond to the call of a wounded world, we join together this day with loving hearts, hands, and minds. Embracing the interconnected web of water, air, and earth, we light a fire Come, light fire. We light a fire of sustaining hope, ever bright with love and justice. There. May we bring forth this day new wisdom, strength, and courage to create a new world, not of wealth, but well-being. A world of new peace and abundance for all, as we give thanks for this earth, our shared and singular home. May we dedicate ourselves to its ongoing care. Rising to the calls deep within us and all around us, may we respond today and always with courage and with love. And now, if you'll recite from home, please join me in our covenant for this congregation. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And now let's sing a song. This is number 61, Lo, the Earth Awakes Again. And while Bonnie plays, I will join in, but I also have to try to check some lights. So I'll join momentarily. Bonnie, please begin. Earth awakes again. Hallelujah. 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 We've heard this happy day. Hallelujah. The word comes true. Hallelujah. All the earth shall be made new. Hallelujah. Now the dark, cold days are o'er. Hallelujah. Spring and gladness are before. Hallelujah. Change then mourning into praise. Hallelujah. And for dirges anthems raise. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Isn't this fun, me trying to multitask and fix different things while the live stream is going on? I haven't gotten too lost yet, I think. It's story time. And there's one other thing I wish to do with the computer right in front of me. There. So the story is The Soil That Sustains Us by Ariel Aronson Eves. The dictionary defines soil as the upper layer of earth in which plants grow, or a black or dark brown material typically consisting of a mixture of organic remains, clay, and rock particles. But I like to think of soil as a community. There are three main mineral components of soil: clay, sand, and silt. There's also a little bit of organic matter made from decayed plant and animal material. When organic matter is really broken down, really broken down, so it can't decompose anymore, it's called humus, which shares a root with the word human. In addition to minerals and organic matter, also in the soil are billions of microorganisms. Microorganisms are tiny, tiny little life forms like bacteria and fungi. These microbes, together with the roots of plants, make up the community of the soil. Just like we humans need to get certain nutrients from our food to be healthy, so too do plants. Plants are sunlight powered to make their own food out of air and water. But just like we can't live healthily off of only carbs, there are some nutrients plants need that they can't get through photosynthesis. Luckily, they've developed a system of exchange with the soil microbes. The microbes are able to break down minerals in rocks or capture nutrients from the air. In this and other ways, they get nutrients into forms that the plants can take up. In exchange, the plants feed the microbes sugars. All this is happening under the soil's surface. This is what happens in healthy soils. This system of cooperation breaks down when the plants stop needing the microbes. Why would they stop needing the microbes? When we heavily apply chemical fertilizers, the plants get addicted to the quick fix. They are freed from the slow process of relationship building, of having to share. If the plants are annuals, they'll be gone the next year, and the community system will have broken down. The next year's crop will need the chemical fertilizer to do well because the relationship between plants and soil microbes had suffered. It will take years to restore. But degradation is preventable and restoration is possible. It just takes a lot of care and learning to see crops not simply as products we take out of the land, but part of a valuable community. And that all starts with soil, learning to see soil as more than just dirt. You might even think of it as sacred. And this is a time when we meet in person together bodily rather than this in person virtually when we have our congregational greeting. And what we've been asking to do is to put a little note in the chat accompanying this live stream to let us know you're here. And I always give a prompt question. The prompt question today for Earth Day is, which do you like better, digging in the earth for a garden or farm, or moving on top of the earth for a floor or road? I'll give you a couple of minutes, and next we will have the anthem, and I will try to prepare that. We have a treat today. Say hello. Our anthem. We have a recording by Garth Simmons in which he plays the canon in D major larghetto by Georg Philipp Telemann. If I can get it on screen, let's see. Hold on. Hold on. We'll get there. This is what I need. Okay. Let's try this. Well, I see the thing, but I don't know if you see the thing. Hold on. I'm starting over. I'm pausing. I'm putting this at full screen. Ah, there it was. Okay. This is new learning. We'll try again. This. And I had not realized that that was a duet. Thank you, Garth, so much. And we had Garth Simmons with and without earbud, I noticed. So, what do we have next? Let's get back to the service if we can. If I can get our controls correct. Please join me for a time of meditation, contemplation, and prayer. I think we are out of stream, but what I see is we have a lot of windows open, I believe. So this might be a challenge. Give me a moment. I'm sorry. There. Stop share. We're back. Time for meditation, contemplation, and prayer. This is Litany for Those Lost to Climate Change by Erica Barron. We take the time to acknowledge all those already lost as the world feels the effects of the pandemic ravaging this earth and of global warming, of climate change. Thousands of people, as well as animals and plants, die every year from the effects of global climate change. As we acknowledge these lost, we respond, we remember you. To all those people lost to extreme heat waves, we remember you. To all those people lost to floods, hurricanes, mudslides, and other disasters caused by changing weather patterns, we remember you. To all those people lost to hunger as crop patterns change, we remember you. To all those people lost to drought as weather patterns change, we remember you. To all those people lost to disease as the environment shifts, and especially today, to those people lost to a virus that science has not yet helped us to understand and heal, we remember you. To all those animals, siblings of flesh and blood, breath and bone, whose lives have been lost as global climates change, we remember you. To all those plant spirits, siblings of the green world, whose lives have been lost as global climates change, we remember you. To all those species lost forever as global climate changes, we remember you. We remember you, and we commit ourselves to restoring balance. So may it be. We remember you, and so may it be. Let us observe a full minute of silence. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Our reading today is brief. It's called Humans and the Web of Life by John Robbins. Humans are part of the web of life. What we do to the planet, what we do to other species, and what we do to other people, we end up doing to ourselves. And look, we have Judy Troutman with us. Judy is going to help me with the sermon today, and she will begin this sermon titled Earth Day 50.
Hello, everybody. 1824, French scientist Jean-Baptiste Joseph Fourier describes the atmosphere as the planet's insulating blanket. Fourier is the first to use the term greenhouse effect to describe how the gases maintain Earth's temperature despite being so far from the sun.
This coming Wednesday, April 22nd, will be the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. I was an impressionable 12-year-old when it began, and I remember in the small town in southern Arkansas where I was growing up, a high school student set up the first recycling barrels outside of a neighborhood grocery store. Recycling was a new thing, and I was eager to do my part in taking our emptied glass containers there. I don't think metal or paper were collected there yet.
1856. Though often attributed to Irish physicist John Tyndall, it was actually the female American scientist Eunice Newton Foote who first theorized that increases in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere could impact Earth's temperatures.
Now, 50 years after the first Earth Day, we can be so blasé about recycling that some of us put what we want in the household recycling bin and the trash can, seemingly without distinction, whether it's on the recycling list or not. And I know I've given attention to, well, it should be recyclable by Republic, even though we have a collection bin at our church, which is currently closed, for zoo and TerraCycle partnered recycling of items that don't go in the every other week curbside pickup. And here at our building, we take congregants' styrofoam by the carloads to the nearest center for that recycling in Ann Arbor. Plus, we don't prepare the recycling in a useful way. From our putting materials in plastic bags that don't recycle and are said to clog up the recycle processing machinery, to seeming to have to serve the larger community by single collection rather than sorting at our place of origin, leaving it to others to separate cans, bottles, paper, and so on.
1896, Swedish scientist Svante Arrhenius claims that burning coal will cause a global warming effect due to an increase in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere.
Earth Day, of course, whenever it entered our consciousness, helped us to gain awareness of ecology. And the teach-ins, which from the beginning were a part of celebrating and honoring the planet, have raised our understanding. We could all be better ecologists, starting at home and continuing here in our congregation with attention, for example, to our holding certification as a green sanctuary, a program created by Unitarian Universalist Ministry for the Earth, and living here with ecological reverence. Let's keep with it. The seventh principle that Unitarian Universalist congregations covenant to affirm and promote is respect for the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. And we turn to 6 sources of our living tradition, the 6th being oriented to our world. Spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature.
1917, Alexander Graham Bell, a Scottish scientist, best known as the inventor of the telephone, writes, "The unchecked burning of fossil fuels would have a sort of greenhouse effect." This statement used the terminology from Fourier from 1824, the claims of Foote in 1856, and Arrhenius in 1896, and now connects this effect to all fossil fuels.
The first Earth Day was formed with that respect and harmony. A United States Senator from Wisconsin, Gaylord Nelson, a Democrat who served from 1963 to 1981, is credited with the idea. He already was attentive to the environment, but the 1969 Santa Barbara oil spill, which I read left a 35-mile oil slick, prompted him to think about taking greater public action. He took the student anti-war movement as inspiration and wanted to have demonstrations and teach-ins about air and water pollution. He got Representative Pete McCloskey, a Republican from California, to be co-chair.
1962, Rachel Carson publishes Silent Spring, a seminal work that catapults the environmental dangers of indiscriminate pesticide use to a national stage.
Senator Nelson and Representative McCloskey recruited a 25-year-old graduate student, Dennis Hayes, as teach-ins organizer, and they chose a weekday after spring break, April 22nd, 1970, when students would be on campus for greater participation. Dennis Hayes built an 85-member staff and got organizations, secular and faith-based, involved. When they called it Earth Day, that got them press. The Earth Day Network, the founding organization of Nelson, McCloskey, and Hayes, inspired 20 million Americans. At the time, 10% of the total population of the United States, Earth Day Network says, to take to the streets, parks, and auditoriums to demonstrate against the impacts of 150 years of industrial development, which had left a growing legacy of serious human health impacts. I want to state my appreciation for the Earth Day Network's website, earthday.org, which you can see up here. Earthday.org is where I drew heavily for today's talk, and from which I took the Earth Day 50 logo, which we used for the cover of the order of service and our Facebook announcements of today's service.
In our own state, Ohio, in 1969, after decades of industrial waste dumping, Ohio's Cuyahoga River catches fire. The image of this fire in Time magazine brings a new public awareness to the human impact of pollution on our environment.
Dennis Hayes is still involved in the movement. Besides being Earth Day Network's board chair emeritus, he is the head of Bullitt Foundation, which built what's called the world's greenest office building in Seattle.
1982, attempts to build a polychlorinated biphenyl, PCB, landfill in an African American neighborhood in Warren County, North Carolina, result in demonstrations and trigger a nationwide movement for environmental justice. Here, Dr. Benjamin Chavez coins the term environmental racism.
It's said that Earth Day was key to the creation of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency that first year of 1970 in the Nixon administration. Times are different now, 50 years later, aren't they? Now our United States has a president who seems intent on gutting just about all environmental regulation while capitalizing on damaging our precious resources for immediate benefit, even if the actions are irreversible. His head of the Environmental Protection Agency even said, "The scientists seem to have a bias." You bet. A bias in favor of facts and verifiable knowledge. But back to Earth Day 1. 1970 also saw the passage of several laws, including the National Environmental Education Act, the Occupational Safety and Health Act, the Clean Air Act, and 2 years later, the Clean Water Act, which is what today's Lake Erie Bill of Rights seeks, in a way, to reclaim after legislation weakened the Clean Water Act. Then came the Endangered Species Act in 1973.
1984, US President Ronald Reagan says in his State of the Union address, preservation of our environment is not a liberal or conservative challenge, it's common sense.
Well, since then, Earth Day has become the largest secular observance in the world, with nearly 200 nations involved. Each year, more than 1 billion people, almost 12.5% of the world, participate. This year's theme is climate change, the biggest challenge to the future of humanity and the life support systems that make our world habitable, Earth Day Network says. In this congregation, we believe that climate change is happening and that we need to do our part to slow it. And this year, thanks to the pandemic, Earth Day is an online thing. Do a Google search of Earth Day streaming, and you'll find several options to take part live.
1990, Earth Day goes global with events organized in more than 140 nations.
Outside of online, Earth Day Network, the originators of Earth Day, have several initiatives geared to the 2020 50th anniversary. There is the Great Global Cleanup, in which people clean up their communities while taking action to prevent future littering. Earthrise is their initiative for demonstrations and public activism. Billion Acts of Green seems to be kind of like the compassion games that Toledo participates in through the Multi-Faith Council of Northwest Ohio, and Greater Toledo was the world leader last year. And a shout out to Judy Troutman, who is so active in the Multi-Faith Council and the compassion games. Earth Day Network is urging people to register their acts of green to achieve 3.5 billion acts this calendar year. Vote Earth is the network's push to exercise democratic principles and vote for people who favor climate action. Food Prints for the Future addresses the food system. Artists for the Earth helps creative people worldwide to show humanity through their work. And Earth Challenge 2020 seeks to make citizen scientists with people collecting data on the environment, especially water, air, and the species in their area.
2007, the Nobel Peace Prize is awarded jointly to the IPCC and U.S. Vice President Al Gore, quote, for their efforts to build up and disseminate greater knowledge about man-made climate change and to lay the foundations for the measures that are needed to counteract such change, end of quote.
Along with the good of Earth Day, I have to bring words of warning, partly in light of the global pandemic we're in the midst of, that I've read came about in part because of our abuse of the earth and the climate, making conditions that much better for the COVID-19 coronavirus to come into being and to spread. The warning is that what we're doing to the earth can be to our detriment. And some scientists predict climatic catastrophe much worse than this disease that's keeping us indoors and isolated as much as we possibly can be. Rihanna Gunn Wright, the Roosevelt Institute's Director of Climate Policy, wrote this past week in the New York Times that the climate crisis is the next multi-trillion-dollar crisis headed our way. Global warming, shifting weather patterns as a result, send disease to new places, she wrote. Along with other ways, our so-called civilization is cultivating dangerous conditions. She pointed out that the same populations that are bearing the brunt of the health and economic effects of the coronavirus, largely Black people, she stated, are in what she termed frontline communities that are adjacent to heavily polluting industries. And they bear the brunt of fossil fuel pollution, which in turn makes them more vulnerable to serious complications. She specifically mentioned Detroit, the epicenter of Michigan's COVID-19 outbreak, and its steel mills, waste processing plants, and the only oil refinery in the state. We have those in Greater Toledo too, don't we?
2015, at COP21 on December 12th, 2015, or the 21st Conference of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, 195 countries adopt the Paris Agreement, the world's first international agreement to keep total anthropogenic global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius. In 2017, US President Donald Trump announces his intent to withdraw the United States, the world's second largest emitter, from the Paris Agreement.
Earth Day is a good thing. It's a bit surprising that someone had to think that for one day a year, we honor and celebrate the earth and learn more about it. Every week, we have a day for another planet, Saturn's Saturday, followed by other celestial bodies for Sun Day and Monday, Moon Day. You might say Mars even gets a full month, though March technically is for the Roman god of war and not the planet that bears that god's name. Let's not limit Earth Day to 24 hours, okay?
2016, the Paris Agreement is signed by 174 countries and the European Union in a ceremony at United Nations headquarters on Earth Day. The Paris Agreement enters into legal force in November 2016, just 11 months from its adoption. 2017, I repeat, US President Donald Trump announces his intent to withdraw the United States, the world's second largest emitter, from the Paris Agreement.
You get that second dig about the withdrawal from the Paris Agreement. Let's get back into it like in January 2021. Anyway, in this time of stay at home, isolation, quarantine, all the days have run together, beginning in Mars's month, March. And all the days have become so blurred that we can call any day Earth Day while we're supposed to be bound to our own pieces of Earth. Can we be inspired by it? And by the way, our separation seems to be doing good things for our world. With photos of animals exploring and reclaiming some bits of nature we took from them, from skies clearing of pollution. So, for example, the Himalayas could be seen again from India. Mount Kenya was visible 85 miles away in Nairobi. And stories say that some children in China have seen stars for the first time, that the Ganges River is said to be crystal clear, and Venice canals also lost pollution, that Los Angeles had its longest stretch of clean air since 1980.
2018, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change releases its special report on 1.5 degrees of global warming and warns that the world has just 12 years to have its emissions to avoid the worst impacts of climate change.
And let's have an effect on the earth other than just from our growing by the billions. In 1820, the world population first reached 1 billion. It takes 110 years till 1930 for it to double to 2 billion. Then only 30 more years to 1960 for it to reach 3 billion. Add another billion to 4 billion in the next 14 years. Keep going. 5 billion 13 years after that in 1987. 12 more years to 1999 for 6 billion. 7 billion comes in 2011, 12 years. A population of 8 billion is projected for roughly 12 years after that. Then 12 more years to 9 billion. We seem to have established a pace of adding 1 billion people to the world's population every dozen years. Right now, today, 200 years after the world first had 1 billion people, the count is almost 7.8 billion. 7,778,836,200 and rising. I checked it at 9:30 this morning. According to the Worldometer website, which keeps a running tally, that site says the United States is the world's 3rd largest country, with a population closing in on 331 million. More than 1 billion people behind only India at nearly 1.38 billion people, and the leader, China, at almost 1.44 billion people.
April 22nd, 2020, Earth Day marks 50 years with global mobilizations to activate more than 1 billion people worldwide.
Who thinks people aren't having an effect on the planet and we can make use of the earth in any way we want, mining it to emptiness and poisoning its air and waters? No, if we try to make every day our Earth Day, we can help nurture our planet back to good health. Thank you, Judy Troutman, for your help.
Happy to help.
And so be it. Now let's sing a song. We have the first 3 verses of number 64 in our gray hymnal, which is, "Oh, give us pleasure in the flowers today." Oh, give us pleasure in the flowers today, and give us not to think so far away as the uncertain harvest keep us here, all simply in the springing of the year. Oh, give us pleasure in the orchard white, like nothing else by day, like ghosts by night, and make us happy in the happy bees, the swarm dilating the perfect trees, and make us happy in the darting bird that suddenly above the bees is heard, the meteor that thrusts in with the needle bill, and off a blossom in mid-air stands still. Okay, I had a little challenge scanning some of the words to the tune, as I didn't have the music in front of me, only the lyrics. But then it was only me hearing it and all you guys too. Never mind. It's membership moment time. We have a membership moment from time to time now. And today, Bonnie Rowe will be giving us a membership moment oriented to Earth Day. And I'm going to pass my microphones over for Bonnie. So, Bonnie, join us.
I'm trying to stay 6 feet away, but it's not too easy. Okay. So how do I do this?
No, those are microphones. They clip. You put one on each lapel.
Okay, give me a minute.
I'm trying to feed enough cord here.
Okay, so you're gonna keep wearing that?
Well, I got the cord, but you got things.
Okay,
So-
can everybody hear me? I hope this is good. All right. just
There
one
we
second.
go.
Thank you, everybody. Sorry, I'm a little shorter than Reverend Tim. I'm not in the camera shot quite as well, but I have brought a box of props with me. And what my membership moment is actually more like 5 minutes. I want to tell you Earth Day changes I've made in everyday life to live a more ecological kind of a life, where I'm trying to be earth friendly. There is an overlap here, which I'm not going to actually talk about, between earth friendly, more healthful for you, and less expensive. But I'm not going to talk about those 2 parts. I'm just going to talk about the earth friendly parts. And it is more like a 5-minute talk. So I apologize, this makes our service a little longer. But if you think you might find some tips that you might like to do, maybe get a pencil and paper out and do this. Here are my 5 categories that I'll talk about. And I promise you the last categories are very short. Minimize trash, save power. Oh, it's 4 categories. Flush the most biodegradable toilet tissue and use less water. So let me start with minimize trash. Reuse and recycle. You want to avoid the throwaway culture. And I think I'm speaking to everybody in the choir and elsewhere who know this or you use. We try not to have stuff that you have to keep throwing away that's not going to be good for the environment. So what I want you to do first is check your accepted recycling list. Now this is the list from Sylvania. You probably can't really read it on your screen. I highlighted things that I wasn't aware I could recycle until maybe 2 years ago. It says here in Sylvania, now you'd have to check your town if you're not in Sylvania, that you can recycle white paper with staples. Staples okay. Envelopes, phone books, ream wrappers. That means wrappers when you buy things like photocopy paper for your printer. They're wrapped in something. You know, you can recycle that. File folders, frozen food boxes. Now I thought I couldn't because those are kind of waxed and they're not actual brown cardboard, but you can. And milk cartons, same thing. So now I try to buy milk cartons that are not plastic, but that are the paper kind. It's not as cheap, but you know, I can also get organic milk that way, and they take up less space and they're made of paper. They probably will degrade better than plastic. You also are not supposed to recycle aerosol cans and aluminum foil. So you might think, oh, well, aluminum is a good metal, cans are recyclable, but regular aluminum foil is not recyclable, so you'll have to throw that away. So I've actually tried to reduce how much aluminum foil I use. Okay. Pack recycling not in plastic bags, but paper bag boxes. So have you ever had a neighbor who has a recycling container where they just let stuff sit there and on a windy day it blows all around the street? Or we have those recycling containers that the truck comes, a mechanical arm sticks out, it grabs the bar on the tall recycling can and dumps it over into the top of the truck like this. And if your recycling is really loose in the container, and if it's a windy day, or I don't know, the guys are sloppy or something, or they're very small pieces, those things can fly all around and they end up in the street. Some of my neighbors do this, but not very many of them anymore. So this is what I do. I now get the brown bags. Here are the Meijer bags, and here's a Kroger bag. So the Kroger bag is the regular old grocery size bag. It's a little bigger, but the Meijer bags are fine. They're paper brown bags, and you can make a box. I open the bag. I'll fill this bag with recyclable things, and then I'll invert this bag and put it over it, and it'll make a box right now. It's just made of recyclable brown paper. And that way you can avoid putting things, tying them up in plastic bags, because plastic bags will mess up the recycling machinery. So that way your recyclables will not blow around out in the road and mess up the environment. You can also tie papers together with natural fiber twine. Another thing is you want to choose those brown bags when you go grocery shopping. I was shamed to that by my son one year because I finally remembered to take my reusable bags like this. This is a Kroger bag. I finally remembered to take them out of my trunk and put them in the back seat of my car. So when I come out of my car now, I think, oh, well, I'll just get these bags. And I was so proud that he came with me one day. This was 2 years ago. And I went through the regular checkout line, but I hadn't brought enough of those bags. So we had more groceries than would fit in there. And, you know, at Meijer, they have this carousel with the plastic bags. So the person at Meijer the cashier was just filling my extra things in those bags, and I didn't say anything, and we went out. Then he said, way to go, Mom, so ecological. You just let that cashier give you plastic bags after all you bragged about how you keep your reusable bags in your car. And I was ashamed. I thought, oh. So that's when I started using the brown bags. I made sure I would do brown bags and not get any more of those plastic bags. And the next time I went to Meijer and the lady tried to use that carousel, I said to her, I'm sorry, but I'm going to use these brown bags, so I'm not going to get plastic anymore to try to be helpful to the environment. And she smiled and thanked me and said, what a great idea. So you might want to try that too. And you also want to, of course, avoid bottled drinks or bottled water. I was getting the reverse osmosis filtered water, which is Primo or Glacier brand, and it was only 44 cents for the Primo, 39 cents at Kroger for the Glacier brand, but now those machines are shut down. So I bought a water filtering pitcher. Mine is a 0 water pitcher. That kind takes away more than 99% of dissolved minerals, germs, and things. If you get a Brita filter, yes, those pitchers make the water taste better, but they won't take away dissolved solids, so it won't help your coffee machine. This way, my coffee machine never develops sediments, and I have very hard water. Let me see. If possible, choose non-styrofoam containers for meat. This is not a cheap choice, but I did notice, even at a place like Meijer, they're starting to have packaged meat that is in plastic only. Still plastic, but you don't have the styrofoam. At places like Aldi, they have packaged meat that's not styrofoam. You could go to a butcher counter and have them wrap it in plastic. That's even better. So I'm trying to do that. Now this one applies to cat litter. If you have a cat, the very best way I've researched on YouTube is to scoop out the cat litter and put it in a sealable container, and then you throw it away in your regular garbage. But when you put that in your regular garbage, it is really stinky. So I must admit, I use plastic here. This is a used produce bag that I got produce in. It's long and thin. And here you've got an even longer one, which is an organic produce bag. So I don't try to stock up on those kinds of plastic things. But you can use that like a diaper genie. If you've ever had a child, you know, you put some of you scoop your cat litter and put it in here. It'll be in the bottom. So there'll be a clump here, a clumping litter. I think you can also do the feces in there. Then you make a knot here, tie it up, and voila. Oops, let me do this better. You will have a little bit here and a long amount left. You can use the next part for the next clump. In a bag this size, depending on how big the clumps are, you can do 3 or 4. In a bag this size, you could definitely do 4 of them. And then you just throw that away and it won't smell. So here, of course, is styrofoam that you don't want to have. I've managed to minimize my styrofoam so that when I bring my styrofoam for recycling every month, it is a small amount. That, I think I have one more container than this for about 2 or 3 months, which is great. And you want to repurpose containers like glass jars, use them for dry foods or things like paper clips or small items. Now here's the great repurposing thing I found. Suppose you have, sorry, I'm off screen a minute. Suppose you have shelves where you want to store things. Like I have a lot of piano books which are bigger than normal paper. They're thin and they don't stand up by themselves. And I also have some shelves that are just shelves and some that have those cubicles, but they're not the small size cubicles that get 10.5 square inch cubes. They're the larger kind. Sorry, Tim. So when I go to Aldi, of course, you know, if you go to Aldi, you have to bring your own bag or don't use a bag at all or something. Well, you know, where you buy the jugs of water, they are stacked up in these boxes. These are just brown cardboard, recyclable, reusable boxes. So what I do is I go there, get one of these. My groceries can fit in there if they're not huge pizzas or something. And when I take this home, I can put this on a shelf like this and stack my books in here and they fit. And they can replace a 13 by 13 shelving box. They are slightly smaller. I think these are more like 12 by 12, but they hold up well. When you're done with it, you can recycle it. If you just use it standing up, you can use it like a filing system and stand things up in it. It's good for organizing. I have one in my closet where I've stuck my leggings on this side and shorts on this side. You know, it works really great and it's free. So think about getting those water jug boxes for your needs for storage and recycling. Keep one in your trunk so that when you go shopping, you can just stick stuff in there. When you have newsprint, oh, this is back to the cat thing. Take your newsprint to Paws and Whiskers. They use those to line their cat litter boxes. They need those every day. They run out all the time. I don't subscribe to the print paper, so I only accumulate those coupon inserts that you get in your mail once in a while. You cannot use the glossy magazines for that, only the non-shiny newsprint. But when I bring a bag over there, they are always so thankful. So if you're just throwing your regular newspaper into the recycling, instead tie it up or put it in a bag and take it over to Paws and Whiskers. And if they're not there, just leave it outside the door in a bag that won't blow away. Okay, second category, save power. Monitor your oven and stove use and minimize it. Instead, have you ever thought about using an Instant Pot? Let me see, where am I at? Pressure cooker, microwave, or slow cooker? Now, I don't have an Instant Pot. I don't want to fool with that. But an Instant Pot, pressure cooker, or microwave is fast. They are high voltage items, but they're fast. Maybe the Instant Pot uses very little power. Your slow cooker uses a very low voltage of electricity. A large 6 or 7 quart slow cooker will use at most on high 270 watts. And the small ones use less than 200 watts. This is per kilowatt hour. So I watched a video where a lady said, according to her energy usage, that was about 2 cents an hour. 2 cents. I thought, well, that can't be right. So Ben and I calculated that, and he said, yeah, that's about right. So even if you are cooking something for 10 hours, let's say 8 hours, it's 16 cents. That's cheap. And you don't heat up your house in the summer. You can make all kinds of wonderful pulled pork or whatever in this kind of a bean soup, vegetable soup, anything. It's wonderful. So I use my crock pot all the time. It saves power. You also want to air dry your clothes or dry them in the clothes dryer until they're only mostly dry, so you're not running your dryer all the time. Don't do tiny loads of laundry and frequent ones, because then you're using lots of power. The dryer uses more power than the washer. What about how do you save your food? How do you store your food? I like to save my jars. Like, you can, of course, you can get canned beans, and those cans are recyclable. But you can also get dried beans. This is a very tiny container, but I have some large glass containers, and I store dry beans, and they don't even need refrigeration. So you save your refrigerator space. You can freeze items. If you've got 2 refrigerator freezers, think about reducing down to 1. Or think about replacing that second refrigerator with a freezer only that's top loading, because those use much less energy. I just was watching some videos about how much energy those use. These are the top loading freezers, and they use maybe $25 a year. Another thing is, what about your hot water heater? Now, on my hot water heater, which is less than 10 years old, there's a dial on the bottom, and it says low, recommended setting, high, and very hot. So something like that. So most people just leave it at the recommended setting. You don't necessarily want to leave it there. That's pretty scalding hot. Try lowering it just a tiny tad, so it's still hot enough that you can't put your hand in. It can be still kind of scalding hot. But think about it. That hot water heater is using electricity or gas to heat that water all the time and have it ready for you. So maybe set it a tiny bit lower, and then it's working a little less all the time, taking less energy. I found out that the freezer uses way less energy than a hot water heater. The hot water heater uses more if you're just comparing electrical. I'm not sure about gas. Okay, last 2 categories. Flush the most biodegradable toilet tissue. I watched some videos on YouTube and found that there was somebody who actually did an experiment where they put the same size sheet of toilet tissue in a little beaker of clear water and stirred it around, and we watched it degrade. And we found out that Scott tissue, which of course is extremely thin, and the Kirkland from Costco dissolved very well. The Quilted Northern and Cottonelle didn't dissolve. And never put facial tissues into the toilet, because they are a different kind of tissue and they don't degrade. So that's terrible. Maybe eventually they degrade, but not like real toilet tissue. So I used to get those other 2 brands, and I'm really worried now that I created a problem years ago, but not anymore. Also, the last category is use less water. Take short showers or baths instead of long showers. Wash your hands after turning the water off, and turn it on again after you've done with your 20 seconds of lather. Don't let that water just run while you're just wiping your hands with the soap. What about, do you do dishwashing in your sink? The best way is not to just put it on full blast, but Put it on enough so that you get maybe use that cold water in the beginning of the running cycle to get things off your dishes. Hopefully you've soaked your dishes. Then you take one of your big bowls or pots and let the hot water run into it with plenty of soap so that it fills with your soapy wash water. Then turn that water off. Then you soap as many of your dishes as you can, wipe off the grime. And then when you're rinsing, don't put the water on full blast. Put it about the width of your pinky, or even a little less. It'll take a little longer, but you can aim that water onto your dishes and get everyone rinsed and clean until it's squeaky clean. It'll make you pay attention to every spot on your dishes. And then you turn it off when you're done, and you will have used a lot less water than if you gush that water out and let it run. And that's my list. I hope that those tips helped you, and hope you have a wonderful week, a very ecologically friendly week. Thank you.
Now Bonnie will give me the microphones back,
And yes,
and she will move back to the piano. Thank you, Bonnie.
thank you.
She will move back to the piano to give us a little bit more music. So give me a moment to get situated here. On this side. Over here. Okay, it's time for our offering. And as you already know, if you've been tuning in and get repeated conversation from us about this, and if you're new to us, you probably could guess that with our congregation closed to the public these days, it's been very difficult to be able to have our regular flow of your contributions. We really appreciate that so many people have been, so many people have been conscious about mailing it to us or trying to provide the electronic donations. You can go to our website, uutoledo.org, and you can click on a donate button on the website. And I also get to say that we are in the process of relaunching the website. So pretty soon there will be some changes there. Look for that as well. Be a part of our congregation in the ways that you can be, is what we ask. And please help us, because you know that the economic situations have changed, and we are struggling with that just like everybody else is. And now Bonnie will play For the Beauty of the Earth. dedicate our offering with these words. We dedicate this offering to the support and good work of First Unitarian Church of Toledo in this community and in the world. I want to take a moment to tell you what is coming soon, next Sunday, our Spiritual Adventures Forum at 10 a.m. via Zoom. Susan Spiegel will read a couple of wisdom stories and open the virtual Zoom floor for discussion. Check the church's Facebook private group for information on how to join that Zoom meeting. And our Sunday service next week at 11 a.m. via the Toledo Unitarians YouTube channel at youtube.com/c/Toledo Unitarians. You're watching that channel now. We'll have The Other Side of Fear, Lessons from Vietnam and Elsewhere with David Strickler, one of our commissioned lay ministers. And today, after we conclude the service in a few moments, we will leave the channel on briefly for you to say a final hello or tell us what kind of coffee you're drinking or whether you use cream and sugar. It's our adaptation of what we have called coffee hour and social time. And now we take only a couple of minutes here, and perhaps fairly soon we can just open the Zoom channel and let people join there as well. We have a couple of other bits to work out before we can do that. But please continue to be with the Toledo Unitarians. Our closing words are by Joy Harjo, who is the Poet Laureate of the United States. Remember the earth whose skin you are, red earth, black earth, yellow earth, white earth, brown earth. We are earth. Remember the plants, trees, animal life that all have their tribes, their families, their histories too. Talk to them, listen to them. They are live poems. Remember the wind, remember her voice. She knows the origin of the universe. Remember you are all people and all people are you. We are earth. Remember, you are this universe, and this universe is you. We are earth. Remember, all is in motion, is growing, is you. We are earth. Remember, language comes from this. Remember, the dance language is, that life is. Remember, we are earth. And as we send the flame of our chalice into the world, I have these words by Diana Smith. As we go forth from this sacred space, may we celebrate earth and our shared lives. May we recognize our connections to all that is in and on earth. May we truly and deeply value the inherent worth of all in this awesome, interconnected web of existence. May we commit ourselves to a new way, and may we hold our commitments and each other gently yet firmly. Blessed be, and amen. And now our recessional is Blue Boat Home. So be it. Amen. The service here has concluded. Give your service to the world then. Bonnie comes over for coffee time. We thank Rich Miller again. We thank Judy Troutman, and we thank Garth Simmons. Thank you for giving us variety in this time of our being apart.
Thank you, everybody. It was nice seeing you. And thanks for your patience for my long talk. I really appreciate it. I love you all. All my stuff is still sitting here. I didn't use all my props.
Okay, we will sign off now.
Okay, bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.